Come on, bitch, let's go. Come on, get ready, bitches. You haven't seen nothing yet. Come on.
Valentino, Versace, Lamborghini, Bugatti. I got money to burn. I'm single and I'm naughty.
Come on.
Tiffany's, Cartier, Gucci, Armani.
Come on.
Break out your black card, boys. It's time to party.
Hi, you guys. Well, finally had some time to go into my DMs, and oh my goodness, so much gossip. So much gossip. It was overwhelming. So today's show is going to have a lot of different topics in it, and I'm going to try my best to get through it. If not, I'll roll whatever we don't cover into next week. Don't worry. Today's show is going to have New Jersey tea, Salt Lake tea, Valley tea. Oh gosh, what else? The Giuffre Star Ye scandal that happened the other day. The Billy Ray Cyrus and Elizabeth Hurley, some tea around that. Just a lot of different topics we're going to cover. So anyway, let's get right into it. First, I want to talk about something that I was sent from X. It came from Mary Cosby fan page, aka Mary Cosby _fan. Okay, so maybe she had a different account. And I just get a feeling that this person who runs this account, maybe on the ground in Salt Lake, somehow got their hands on the teaser that they actually shopped Salt Lake to Bravo with, which I thought was very unusual. I mean, maybe you guys know who the person is behind this account, but seems in proximity to people that are in the know. So I wanted to read a post that she wrote because I thought it was really interesting. She's spilling all the tea she's heard about the upcoming season of filming for 6. And I want to read these to you. So it says, Mary Cosby. Mary is still the comedic and unfiltered queen she's always been. We see more of her journey in motherhood and her becoming the anchor for these women. Anchor in her own terms, though. Wink. She's in some mess as well. This is what this account said about Mary in season 6. Then she goes on to Lisa Barlow. Lisa is still the villain and one of the main players this season. There were some hiccups in the beginning of filming, but it worked out and she came back guns blazing. Her feud with Bronwyn goes deeper than before. Number 3, Angie Katsanevas is caught in the middle of the mess. She's letting us know why she got first seat and center snowflake last season. She's still besties with Mary. Her and Meredith are working on building something, but will it last? Now, Angie Katsanevas is rumored to be coming on a show that's going to come out on Bravo in the future under their sort of competition division thing, where there's going to be a bunch of housewives that are going to do wife swapping. And right now, the people that are going to be on the show allegedly are Angie Katsanevas, Wendy Osefo, and Emily Simpson. And Melissa Gorga and Joe Gorga also teased it on their podcast. So we know it's real. Now, in addition to that, I know some other New Jersey cast members that are off New Jersey for a long time that have been approached about doing other kind of family-oriented shows, like maybe a mother and daughter competing on, something they have to do, right? Or living in a house all together with other housewives, mother and daughter teams, like this kind of thing. So it's not just with wife swapping, which is this one show. There's a few different themes that are going around and they're shopping them to old cast members. So thought you would find that interesting, and it is tied to this tea to kind of broaden the story. Now let's get into New Jersey in a minute. Let me go back to what I was reading you. And you guys already know that Meredith Marks is not being suspended or wasn't suspended over something that happened with Britney, even though that was making the rounds. That is definitely false, just to say it while we're talking about this. Okay, so then Whitney Rose is the next one that Mary Cos fan page does. Whitney is still the bone carrier and not afraid to get into some mess. Whitney may be the blame for some of the arguments, but someone has to move the story. Her feud with Lisa still remains at large. especially since the two wanted to avoid one another in the beginning of filming. So why did they want to avoid one another? Well, quite simply, Whitney Rose falsely accused Lisa Barlow of reaching out to a blogger against her business, which was Whitney Rose's jewelry line. And as you guys know, I was the blogger in air quotes that was speaking to both Whitney and this Anon account that was sending the information to me. And I had been talking to this Anon account for years, and I did whole shows on the Patreon about it and shared all the receipts around this. But in the end of the day, what was probably really destructive, truly, that you didn't see on the show was that Whitney Rose knew that Lisa Barlow was not who I thought sent me that tea. And, Adam was kind of speaking to Whitney, and he was doing his own thing over here to the right, and him and I were talking, but not in a timely fashion that he was communicating what I was saying to Whitney. So there was like a disconnect between Adam and I, and then Adam went and said what he believed without talking to me totally yet, and said it to Whitney. And then he also said that they took what he said out of context, and it was about other gossip, and they used it like it was what he was saying, and it wasn't. So they rigged it. Anyway, needless to say, the bottom line is Whitney Rose knew Lisa Barlow had not given me that tea, Adam aside. And she could have fixed it, but she doesn't. She just kind of lets it go, and then they downplay it in the show later, because I think she panicked because she realized she had pursued a whole storyline against Lisa Barlow, and it was going to come out that it was false. Okay. So that's why that kind of dies on the vine, that whole storyline. But it sounds like to me that they come into the season and Lisa Barlow is still very pissed at Whitney Rose for trying to throw her under the bus to the fans with the bloggers. Now, to be fair to Whitney Rose, who I'm not a big fan of, to be honest, between you and I don't approve of her multi-level marketing businesses that she does. I think they are scammy. And I don't like that business. I think that business takes advantage of a lot of people, forces them to buy a bunch of inventory they never can sell. And it's usually snake oil shit that hasn't been properly researched. It's a whole scam. So I don't like Whitney Rose doing that, which is why I'm not her big fan. But to be fair, the rumor has been through people on the ground in Salt Lake that Lisa Barlow does use bloggers against other castmates, similar to what Monica Garcia was called out for with Reality Von Tease, which, by the way, wasn't true, because although Monica Garcia did run the Reality Von Tease account with 3 other people, she really wasn't dragging the cast. She was dragging Jen Shaw. And I know this because I was talking to Reality Von Tease from the very beginning before I knew it was Monica for a long time. And we were exchanging gossip because she had obviously insider information. And the one thing I'm pretty damn good at this point is being able to weed out who's bullshit in terms of what they're saying is happening and who isn't, and what the tells are. That's the real gift, is knowing the tells. And again, people always ask, why don't you follow anybody? I'm never giving anyone a tell of who I'm getting my information from. Okay, unless I've disclosed it already. Now, I will say something, which is, if I need to know, I don't need to follow anyone. They'll come tell me. Or you guys will. So then we jump to Meredith Marks, and it says, Meredith is unhinged like never before. When rumors about her marriage hit the scene once again, she will do whatever it takes to keep the woman from meddling in her own business. Her annoyances with Brittany reach a breaking point. So that happens with Meredith, I guess. And I don't know, does this have to do with some of the things they're teasing on Next Gen NYC with her son Brooke, who's also making an appearance on that show? You know, because I guess Seth has been going on saying he's pan fluid, meaning he'd like to be, you know, his dream, he says it kiddingly, is to essentially be able to make love to a man, a female, doesn't matter. Could this be somehow a tease of that coming? Because, of course, the word on the street has been long spread that Seth has some sort of lover where he is doing his merchandising, which is not in Salt Lake and not in Palm Beach, Florida, where Meredith is. So is this cheating? And is it cheating with a man or a woman? I don't know. Meredith staunchly says that this is not the case. It isn't true. These are all rumors made up by Lord knows who. And I believe Meredith. I do. But the women are going to go for it because they know it's floating around the fan base and has been for years. And then the account says that Heather Gay is a snooze on the upcoming season, doesn't even comment any gossip around her. Now, to be fair, Heather Gay is working on another show with Shed Media, which is a spin-off show about her salon, Beauty Lab. And it's going to be like Vanderpump Rules, but instead with Beauty Lab employees and clients, I guess. And the drama that ensues in all of this, especially since I'm sure some of them are Mormon, and who knows, maybe Bravo Peacock want to tap the very successful market that's appealing to the secret lives of Mormon wives. And on that note, did you know that Vanderpump Villa Season 2 incorporates some of the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives characters, because it's also a Hulu show? And there's a big scandal that has erupted around this, which I'm about to tell you about when I finish the Salt Lake City gossip. As we suspected, Bronwyn Newport is going to have her criminal history brought up in the midst of the season. We know that this was going to happen because they were on a group trip when this story kind of broke. Who broke it? This big sleuth who I think might be out of Salt Lake, but I don't know for sure. Just from some indicators, I do talk to this person at the Bravo Derm on X if you want to go follow their account. Otherwise, he was nice enough to send me all the receipts related to Bronwyn, and I do mean all of them, and I posted them in the Patreon in, I think, 3 posts. So you can go through them for yourself. The Patreon has a handy search engine, which is why I like to use it like a museum. Mary Cosby's fan page goes on. In the midst of this, she accuses Lisa Barlow of doing something that sets Lisa off. Their feud is one of the major factors this season. Whitney, Angie, and Mary come to Bronwyn's aid sometimes. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that Bronwyn is going to blame Lisa Barlow for leaking this gossip in the similar vein to Monica Garcia, who Lisa Barlow criticized so publicly for, doing gossip and spilling secrets and all this stuff back in season 4 when she helped with Heather Gay get her fired from the show, that Lisa Barlow is going to be allegedly the one who leaked this information to the blogger at Bravo Derm, who collaborates later with Bravo and Blaze and puts it all out there. Now, I did notice that the tabloids that covered these criminal charges that Bronwyn had did not credit the correct people when they alluded to it. They actually credited people who saw it online, took it, didn't give credit for it, and then posted it on their different platforms that they do shows on. And I have a feeling that they are going to be the ones that Bravo cites on the upcoming season as maybe the bloggers or whatever that Lisa Barlow spoke with to get this data out there. I, however, want to say that it did not come from those people that the tabloids and the bloggers credited. It came absolutely 100% from at the Bravo Derm. And what a sleuth he was to find what he did. It was epic because I read to everybody exactly how he went about doing it. And it had nothing to do with Lisa Barlow. I asked him point blank. So unless they call out his name and establish that Lisa Barlow knows him, I can't believe it because he didn't even know why I was asking when I asked. But I think that Bronwyn's going to say Lisa Barlow's behind this because she's got a vendetta against Bronwyn, and Whitney's going to be like, see, I told you so, and Angie Katsanevas and Mary are going to jump on the bandwagon, and they're going to protect Bronwyn against Lisa Barlow. Why? Because secretly they all want to get Lisa Barlow fired. And the only way they feel like they can do it is in the same way that Lisa Barlow and Heather Gay got Monica Garcia fired. So there is the evil plan that has been in the works for a long time. Okay. But Lisa Barlow, remember, is one of the central characters that the whole show was framed around. She actually brought everyone in. She is the Kyle Richards of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So good luck with that. All right. There's one more that Mary Cosby fan page drops, and it's Brittany Bateman. Brittany is still once again thirsty as ever. This causes some annoyance with some of the women, especially Mary and Meredith. Also, she still is on and off with Jared Osmond. Well, we know that they were announced official on his Instagram as girlfriend-boyfriend. So if this is the case, he again has done something to dump her, or she has done something to make him not want to commit. It's pretty apparent that he's not into Brittany, but he is into her fame, and I'll leave that with you to consider. Now, this account also somehow knows that it's wrapping soon. In just a few weeks, they'll be wrapping Salt Lake. So there it is. And then they drop some tea that Mary Cosby and Angie Katsanevas are going to make a appearance as guests on Below Deck Mediterranean. And there's a picture of them with the captain that has been going around. And so this account is going to be working on it, I guess, from Mary. A lot of mashups happening, a lot of spin-off shows, a lot of competition series and development at Bravo. They need to do something because the Valley's ratings have been horrific. So the first episode was, I think, 470,000 people watching it when it actually came out. Of course, they're going to stream. You're going to get another whack of streamers. But I'm just saying, usually Bravo fans want to see it right out of the gate. Okay. And that was 40% lower than it was last year. That's huge. So 40% of the audience didn't tune back in. Then the next episode 2, you'd be like, oh, it's building momentum, right? Well, guess what? It was lower, probably dropping 50% or something from season 1 to episode 2. And the numbers were like 400,000 people watching it live. Now, think about that for a second. That is like a mid-influencer on YouTube's views, because the big influencers, they get 16 million views a video. And the, let's say next tier down from that, or mid-tier, they're getting 500,000 to 1 million downloads per video. This didn't even hit that mark. And then it drops to people that are doing 100,000 to 200,000. They would be called, let's say small to mid influencers on YouTube. And then you go into the micro, which is most Bravo people, by the way, which are getting anywhere from a few thousand views all the way up to, 80,000 views, let's say, or 100,000 views. And that's really what YouTube considers micro. So they're, as a network, with all of the resources they have, really competing with the lower end of YouTube at the moment. Now, their views of their actual after show stuff to do with the Valley is also low. I think I saw some of them were averaging like 5 or 10,000 views. Now, I want you guys to know an average YouTube video for me on Beverly Hills is 20,000 views. And Bravo is barely on their own YouTube channel clearing a few thousand views on content to do with the Valley. And my recap gossip shows, which I think are very good, right, in terms of the tea I'm spilling, they're only getting a few thousand views, just like Bravo's. And that's shocking to me because Denise Richards' show, Wild Things, did way better. She was at the end of that season on my channel getting, 8 to 10,000 views. So the Valley is not even competing with Denise Richards' Wild Things show. I bring this up because if my numbers on the Valley by week 4 or 5 don't go up, I'm dumping the show and I'm not going to cover it or do gossip on it anymore. Although in today's show, I have the juiciest mother effing gossip on Jax Taylor you have ever heard. Yeah, but that's for the Patreon part. All right, so before we move on, thinking of Lisa Vanderpump, who I'm going to talk about in a minute, Dorit Kemsley has removed Real Housewives of Beverly Hills from her Insta bio, meaning she's negotiating her agreement and nothing is set in stone. Simultaneously with this happening, PK Kemsley was spotted and photographed making out with a hot blonde girl. Big shocker. How does he pull these women? We will never know. So the girl turns out to be Shanna Wall, who used to go out with Ryan Seacrest that PK is really into. And first thing on Saturday morning, after these pictures made the rounds of him making out with Shanna, Dorit filed for divorce. And now I guarantee we're going to see a man very soon. They have no prenup. They were married over 10 years, so the state will pretty much go to the default on everything. And they'll split the debt and the equity equally, and we'll have to see how it goes. Very shocking stuff to wake up to over the weekend. This, and of course, that there was a shocking announcement made Friday night late, which was Virginia Giuffre from, Prince Andrew's civil litigation that he sex trafficked her in a sense. And then Epstein also, used her. Her husband allegedly was abusing her, were holding her kids back, had some sort of big announcement that he could make that he was maybe blackmailing her with, because she may have lied about stuff. Oddly, the Patreons pointed out that her credibility was really impacted right before she does this awful deed to herself, allegedly. And so, that could be sinister in its own right, ruining someone's credibility, and then they're suddenly gone. I don't know. There's just a lot to talk about with this. She obviously was struggling from some mental health problems because she was posting things that weren't true and had weird perspectives. This all happens and we're shocked. And I do want to talk about this topic, but not yet. I have some thoughts on this. It is very strange that we have yet another suicide that occurs around Epstein. This makes 4. And if she hung herself, I don't want to be morbid, but if she did, it is very strange to me that that's another one, right? 4. And all through hanging. And I want to say this, I really hope they do a proper investigation and don't just do a suicide investigation, given some of the ramifications to very powerful people her actions took. It could be suspect given the level of people that she had betrayed. And so people are hoping they do a proper investigation and they don't just, go straight to it was a suicide, because Lord knows after studying Putin, we know that people can, like 19 oligarchs killed themselves. And oh, by the way, their family is across different nation states to do with Putin. It's kind of a stretch. You know what I mean? So I think we need to kind of keep an open mind around this. And then if it turns out to be true, it's completely tragic and horrific. But I would hate for her not to get justice because she was maybe set up. Okay, back to Beverly Hills. Sutton has wished Garcelle well, even though she's cut her off. And influencers have been putting out there that Erika Jayne Girardi has been downgraded to a friend of, which makes sense to us. Some people are saying they're dangling the carrot of talking about the Marco civil case on the show and she doesn't want to do it. And so they're saying if you don't do it, you're not a housewife. I'm going to say I can't believe she's still on the show. So the fact that she is still on the show leads me to believe that, again, contract negotiation stuff. I mean, I don't know why Andy Cohen is up Erika Jayne's ass, but apparently he is. I mean, I can't understand it. It's the only thing I can ever think of is that gossip that Tom Girardi did a litigation that he didn't make NBC pay for in return for giving Erika Jayne Girardi a gig on the show. And they're just holding up their end of the bargain. That's the only thing I can think of because I just don't understand, the draw. Also, Teddi Mellencamp has stated that for the time being, it looks like her immunotherapy has been working. Some of the tumors she had to shrink using that versus removal, and it is appearing to work. So that's positive news for Teddi. Congratulations on that front. I did talk about it a little bit yesterday, some things to keep in mind, but I don't feel like doing that here. Okay, moving on. So now keeping it on topic, let me tell you the juicy gossip that has been going down with Vanderpump Villa 2. As the Patreon knows, they shifted some of the theme of the show this year. They got rid of the guy who abused his girlfriend physically as the villa manager and replaced him with Stassi, who's supposed to be Lisa Vanderpump's eyes and ears on the ground. They also realized that they needed to incorporate something more snazzy to get people to watch about the guests, because regular guests coming in wasn't that interesting to people. So they decided to invite different cast members from other reality shows, which obviously know how to do reality TV, or themey groups like the Olympics, to come in and be guests to stir shit up. So one of the people we got wind about like a year ago was Lisa Vanderpump's nephew, who's on Made in Chelsea. He's going to be with the cast going to Vanderpump Villa. Sam joined the cast around April 15th, 2024, and he said this about joining the cast. My aunt is always extremely supportive and proud of me, Sam tells Hello. She always gives her 2 cents, though. She wouldn't be her if she didn't. Keep me in check and give me advice. She always tells me you don't need to raise your voice, keep calm, and don't let anyone get the best of you. Hello goes on to say that her and Sam have become closer since her brother in 2018 died. And Sam said, losing my dad at a young age was very hard, and Lisa's become my guidance on that side of the family ever since. She's my rock. He said that he went to the same theater school as Lisa Vanderpump and was super impressed with her reality TV career. And I was talking to Freddie about some gossip, reality diamond Freddie. I'm going to do a live with him soon. I know you guys miss him. He's really got his pulse on what's happening out of England, right, to do with reality TV stuff. And he's very familiar with Made in Chelsea. And he even has, gone out for reality TV shows himself in England. He said, I've been watching Lisa Vanderpump's accounts in regards to her nephew, Sam, and I really have only seen him promoting Lisa, not the other way around. So it's really strange. And Freddie called that out to me. And I said, it doesn't really surprise me because Lisa doesn't really help anybody publicly, anybody she knows, which is weird. But being that I knew her, on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, my take of Lisa is she's very aware of how people are viewing her. She's constantly thinking about her brand, not her authenticity. And more importantly, she's not a giver. She's really a taker. And I know it's hard to hear that because everyone loves her because she's funny and she's got the British accent and the awesome house with swans and little horses and shit. But the reality is that's like her personality. And perhaps that's why she's been so successful. I'm not saying it's a negative thing because it's obviously worked for her, but there is a bunch of dead bodies that kind of follow in Lisa Vanderpump's wake. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that literally. I'm just saying there's a lot of collateral damage in Lisa Vanderpump's rise to the top. But who knows, maybe just inviting Made in Chelsea to do this Vanderpump Villa crossover through Hulu, was enough to get this kid on the show. And, so that's all she needed to do really, right? Is just throw him his chance and he has to run with it and she's not helping him beyond that. But he was posting him going on a private jet with the Made in Chelsea people to Lisa's place. So we knew it was all happening. Well, anyway, they're inviting the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives cast as one of the reality groups coming over to Vanderpump too. Now, how do we know this? Because a big scandal broke. Demi Engeman, she's married to a guy named Brett, who she's been in this like on and off again relationship with, okay? And I'll get into that in a second. And there's ties to Real Housewives of Salt Lake City in this because Demi did try to get on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Also, Brett, her husband, that she's been on and off with, he went on Bachelorette for a while and actually got fired off it because he was seeing Demi and they found out about it. There were other things too. There was issues with COVID. I'm definitely oversimplifying it, but that was also happening. Now, Demi also was married to Blake Corbin, who was married to Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Angie Harrington. Love Angie. Shout out to Angie Harrington. And Demi was married to him for 5 years. And then she ends up going back to Brett. But I guess on this trip, Demi ends up hooking up with Marciano in Vanderpump Villa too. And then all this drama ensues and they start talking about it on social media because she's denying that it happened to the extreme that he's saying, and he's saying it did happen. And I'm sure she's worried about her marriage to Brett and that maybe he'll dump her, or if they're already kind of on the outs, it'll get worse. So this all kind of broke on social media and everybody got really excited. So let me tell you about the receipts that were dropped. Now, before you think this is a stunt, think again, because the allegations are too serious to be a stunt. Okay, so what happens is Marciano shows a video of him on his feed, and he's drinking rosé wine and having lunch in like an elegant setting, looks like California. And he says, uninvited to the function because a 30-year-old Mormon wife's scared I'll tell her husband the truth. And he does a whole video where he's unbothered and he's like eating food and drinking wine. And that drops. And then Sheena Shea, who knows Marciano because they're friends, okay, jumps in the chat, and Sheena says, what the fuck is this? And Marciano says at Sheena, shrugged, guess we'll have to see. And then Sheena says to Marciano, I don't think you're going to like what you see. And this is what she says. So Sheena's getting into the thick of this because she knows Marciano really well. Obviously, she's trying to get content for her show. I'm sure it's going to come out this week because Vanderpump Villa 2 premiered this week. Now, a cast member named Layla Leanne Taylor for the Mormon Wives show jumps into the chat and she writes, oop, eyeballs. And Marciano tags her and says, here we go. And he puts like a devil face and a shrug. And then Demi really jumps in the chat and gets pissed. And she says, grown men acting like a child because they couldn't bag a woman that was beyond out of their league and married, all caps, throw up. And then she says the clout chasing is on another level. Then she goes in again and says, also, he got uninvited by Hulu because he's a sexual predator that can't keep his hands to himself, not because I'm hiding anything from my husband. He's a lying clout chaser. At Marciano, whatever his thing is, hope your 15 minutes of fame is worth it. You're pathetic. Then her castmate jumps in and says, oop, looks like someone is doing damage control before Vanderpump Villa comes out this week. And then Jennifer Affleck says, sexual predator. It's interesting considering she was FaceTiming him a week later, inviting him to dinner. So the last two women chiming in on this are Demi's castmates from her Mormon show, and they're siding with Marciano, who she's calling a sexual predator, and saying that's why he wasn't invited to Hulu, which is the thing that we figure out he's missing. So, I mean, this is like another huge scandal to do with Vanderpump Villa too, okay? And it has to do with an abuser, sexual predator, all of these things. This can't be good for Lisa Vanderpump. First season, we have a guy who they supposedly vetted through the casting process, and he ended up having a restraining order against him from his wife, and he beat her up and was like a psycho and all this shit. And now, we have this happening with Marciano being called a sexual predator by Demi, and then her cast isn't supporting her. They're calling her a liar, like she pursued him and actually hooked up with him and doesn't want to admit it to her husband, Brett. So she cheated during this reality show. It's a mess. And then Lisa Vanderpump also has been called out by every single... For the full scoop, join the Dishing Drama Dana Patreon. The link is in this audio description. It's only $6 a month, and you'll get the best information and tea about the things you care about, and even the things you don't know you care about. What are you waiting for?